The former chief executive of Wirecard, Markus Braun, has been arrested. The move was
to make Wirecard look more attractive to an look. This has been a wild ride for Wirecard. You only need to look at the share price over the.
The trial comes 2 years after Wirecard collapsed and shot the country's peak.
The former CEO of Wirecard has been arrested on suspicion of.
Journalists who reported on fraudulent dealings at Wirecard received complaints.
Now, there were early warning signs about fraud at Wirecard. They have
1.9 billion euros sitting in a Philippine bank account, except the bank says it doesn't exist. The money was never there, and the guy who knew where it really went. He's now in Moscow working for Russian intelligence. This is the story of Wirecard, Germany's biggest corporate fraud ever. A company that fooled everyone, investors, regulators, even the German chancellor. But it was all built on lies. Let me introduce you to Markus Braun, Austrian tech CEO with a Steve Jobs complex. Black turtlenecks, rimless glasses, and dreams of building Germany's answer to PayPal. He took over a near-bankrupt porn payment processor in 2002 and turned it into a 24 billion euro empire.
The trial of Wirecard's former chief executive Markus Braun began in Munich. Braun and 2 other high-ranking managers of the former blue-chip company.
But here's where it gets weird. In 2010, Braun hired a guy named Jan Marsalek as COO. Charming, athletic, wore $5,000 Brioni suits. Problem? He'd already been recruited by Russian military intelligence. An actual spy was now running operations at Germany's hottest fintech. Marsalek wasn't your typical COO. He partied in Saint-Tropez, spent 15 grand on dinner, and casually showed off classified chemical weapons formulas at social gatherings. Oh, and he was planning to build a private army of 20,000 Libyan mercenaries. You know, normal COO stuff. While Marsalek was living his spy fantasy, the company was supposedly making billions from payment processing in Asia through 3 mysterious partners, Al Alam in Dubai, PayEasy in Manila, and Senjo in Singapore. Here's the kicker. These 3 companies generated 50% of Wirecard's sales and 95% of its profits. Nearly all of Wirecard's money was supposedly coming from these mysterious Asian partners. But when investigators looked closer, Al Alam, the company supposedly generating 1/3 of Wirecard's profits, was being run by one man from a Dubai apartment. Meanwhile, back in 2015, a stubborn Financial Times journalist named Dan McCrum started asking uncomfortable questions. He'd gotten a tip that something wasn't right at Wirecard. The company's response? They tried to destroy him.
Onto the tech darling.
While Germany's financial regulator denied that it was protecting Wirecard, the company continued to emerge unscathed after each attack, and it became emboldened.
The intimidation got physical. A short seller named Fraser Paring was dropping his daughter at school when 2 large men with Eastern European accents forced their way into his car. They showed him surveillance photos of his family. The men demanded information about his short positions and warned him they'd be back. This wasn't corporate warfare. This was straight-up gangster intimidation. But the fraud was starting to crack. Inside Wirecard's Singapore office, a lawyer named Pav Gill discovered forged contracts, backdated agreements, and fake transactions. When he tried to investigate, he was forced out.
I approached the Deputy General Counsel, who suggested we conduct an internal investigation using an external, independent law firm. But when we found evidence of fraud, senior management stonewalled us completely.
Here's the beautiful part. After Jill was pushed out, his mother called the Financial Times. A concerned mom's phone call would ultimately bring down a 24 billion euro company. Never underestimate the power of an angry mother. Armed with inside information, Dan McCrum published his bombshell investigation in January 2019. The evidence was damning. Forged contracts, fake revenues, money disappearing into thin air. Wirecard's stock crashed 21% in a single day.
Yourself facing an actual criminal investigation in Germany with regulators where the company which you're writing about seems to have certainly the ear of these people.
An unprecedented 2-month ban on investors betting against Wirecard as its share price fell below 100 euros, citing Wirecard's importance for the economy and the serious threat to market confidence.
We are taking action to protect market integrity against potential market manipulation. The short-selling ban is necessary to maintain orderly market conditions.
It was Chancellor Merkel who indeed lobbied the most powerful man in China for Wirecard. And you do not simply go to China just because her former economic minister Gutenberg, who...
Wirecard's aim of entering the Chinese market overlapped with the best interests of the German economy. We support German companies expanding internationally.
By 2020, Wirecard was at peak credibility. DAX 30 member, 24 billion euro valuation, Chancellor's endorsement, regulators' protection. The fraudsters had won. Except for one tiny problem. The auditors finally decided to actually check if the money existed.
No money, none of Wirecard's missing $2.1 billion ever entered into the Philippines. And we're hearing from Wirecard itself that they now believe that the $2.1 billion probably...
The money had never existed. It was all fake, every single euro.
The next week, Markus Braun resigns, and he's arrested shortly after.
Markus Braun has been arrested.
But here's the spy thriller part. Marsalek told everyone he was flying to the Philippines to prove his innocence. Instead, his private jet, with its identity blocked, landed in Minsk, Belarus at exactly 7:10 p.m. Russian intelligence was waiting. The next day, Marsalek crossed into Russia by car, assisted by Putin's special envoy to Libya. Meanwhile, forged Philippine immigration records were created to make it look like he'd gone to Manila. Even his escape was a fraud.
Wirecard's former CEO denied all charges against him. Markus Braun said he had no knowledge of any forgery or embezzlement at the firm.
Braun spent the next 4 years in pre-trial detention. Meanwhile, investigators discovered the full scope of the operation. Wirecard staff rented hotel rooms in Dubai to stage fake transactions for auditors. It was all theater, an elaborate Potemkin village of a business.
Critics have argued that the country's regulatory system is not equipped to deal with a payments company like Wirecard. Unlike regulators in other countries, BaFin doesn't have the power.
In 2024, British authorities revealed that Marsalek was the ringleader of a network of 6 Russian spies plotting to kidnap and assassinate dissidents across Europe. The Wirecard fraud was just his day job. By night, he was running assassination operations for Moscow. Today, Marsalek lives freely in Moscow under the fake identity Alexander Nelidov. He's had cosmetic surgery, works with the FSB, and has been spotted walking around central Moscow with his FSB girlfriend. He'll never face justice. Dan McCrum, the journalist they tried to destroy, was vindicated. Criminal investigations against him were dropped. He won journalism's highest awards, published a best-selling book, and got a Netflix documentary. The truth teller won in the end. The damage? 7 billion euros in shareholder losses, over 5,000 jobs destroyed. Germany's reputation as a financial center shattered, all for money that never existed. This wasn't just corporate fraud, it was a perfect storm of institutional failure. Regulators protected criminals, auditors never audited, politicians lobbied for fraudsters, and a Russian spy ran operations at Germany's proudest fintech while planning assassinations on the side.
The trial of Wirecard's former chief executive Markus Braun began in Munich. Braun and 2 other high-ranking managers of the former blue-chip company face a number.
The Wirecard scandal revealed something terrifying. How easy it is to fool everyone when the system wants to be fooled. Regulators, politicians, and auditors all had incentives to look the other way. Truth became inconvenient, so they criminalized the truth-tellers instead. It took a mother's phone call to the Financial Times to bring down a 24 billion euro company protected by Germany's most powerful institutions. Sometimes the smallest acts of courage change everything. Never underestimate the power of one person telling the truth. So remember, when someone shows you 1.9 billion euros in a bank account, maybe, just maybe, call the bank and ask if it's actually there. Because sometimes the biggest frauds hide in plain sight, protected by the very people meant to stop them.